Hello everyone, welcome to Everyday Prelims series of Shantha Lakshmi IAS Academy. So today in this video, let us discuss the topics of 15th of September 2025. First, we are going to discuss about the India's first bamboo-based ethanol plant, and then about the koalas, and third about the INS Androth, and fourth Sri Mokshagundam Vishweshwaraya, because today is 15th September and we are celebrating his birthday as the Internet Day. And finally, Guinea-Bissau African country mapping. So today our first topic, that is the India's first bamboo-based ethanol plant. So why we are discussing this? So our Prime Minister Narendra Modi has inaugurated this India's first bamboo-based ethanol plant in Assam district, Assam state, at the Numaligarh refinery. So these are the pictures of Prime Minister Narendra Modi's inauguration of this plant. Let's discuss what is this plant. So this plant, it is the first, India's first bamboo-based ethanol plant. So what is this ethanol? So what this plant will do, it will convert the bamboo biomass into the 2G bioethanol, that is the second generation bioethanol. So we have the 4 generations of biofuels, right? First generation, we derive the biofuel from the food crops. And the second generation, we derive the biofuel from the non-food crops. And third generation, we derive the biofuel from the algae. And fourth generation, we derive the biofuel from the genetically engineered materials. So this bamboo comes under the non-food crop. So this is the India's first second generation and the bamboo-based bioethanol plant. And this project was part of the India's National Bioenergy Mission and the ethanol blending program. So under this ethanol blending program, we have the target of 20% ethanol blending by 2025. So this project, this India's first bamboo-based bioethanol plant, was developed by the Assam Bioethanol Private Limited, which is a joint venture between the Numaligarh Refinery Limited and Fortum Oil and the Chempolis Oil. Coming to the location, as I said, it was located at the Numaligarh Refinery, Golaghat district of Assam state. So Assam has got the India's first bamboo-based bioethanol plant. So coming to the feedstock, so how this Numaligarh refinery plant will get the biomass or the bamboo. So this will get the bamboo, that is the 5 lakh tons of bamboo per year from the states of Assam, Arunachal Pradesh and other northeastern states. And by utilizing those 5 lakh tons of bamboo, it will process around 3 lakh tons of bamboo annually, and it will generate around 49,000 tons of bioethanol per year. So this is the output. Also, this bioethanol will help in powering the or generating the 25 megawatt of renewable power. So this is the India's first bamboo-based bioethanol plant. Bioethanol is a kind of the biofuel, which means we derive the biofuel, the fuel from the biodegradable plants, which are environment friendly. So that which do not cause the pollution, which do not emit the polluting causing smoke or the particles or the gases. So this is important for this year prelims. India's first bamboo-based bioethanol plant. And moving to our second topic, that is the koalas. So why we are discussing about these koalas now? So these are also known as the koala bears. So a regulator in the Australia has approved the world's first vaccine to protect the koalas from the chlamydia infections. And this chlamydia is caused by a bacteria. And this chlamydia affect the koalas. Due to this infection, the koalas are affected in the infertility, urinary tracts, and the bleeding issues. They are harmed by this chlamydia infection. This is kind of a bacteria. So, in order to protect the koalas from this chlamydia infection, some companies from this Australia has designed a vaccine which is a single booster vaccine, and that vaccine was approved by the Australian government. So we'll say about these koalas now. So these koalas here you can see these are the koalas, also known as the koala bears. And these are the arboreal. That means they live on the trees, tree branches. And next, herbivorous. That means they feed only on the plants. And these are the marsupial species. Marsupial species are a kind of mammal species, and these give birth to the undeveloped children. And these marsupials keep their children or the babies on their pouch. They have some kind of pouch here, and they will put their children in that pouch. These are the pouched animals. Marsupials are a kind of the mammals. So this kangaroos, we know the kangaroos, right? Kangaroos also comes under this marsupials only. And these koalas are endemic to the eastern Australia, especially the Queensland, New South Wales, Victoria and the South Australia. Its feed include as I said, these are the arboreal that it lives on the trees. Its diet include the eucalyptus leaves only. They feed on these eucalyptus leaves mostly. And these are the low nutrition diet. So that's why they spend their most hours in sleeping only. They sleep 20 hours a day because they do not have the energy, because these depend on the eucalyptus leaves, which are the low nutrition. They get the low energy. So they spend most of the time in sleeping only. That's how these are the sedentary animals. And these are predominantly active at night, and these are the asocial animals. These do not mingle with the other animals, and generally they come in groups. They come in groups at least for 15 minutes, and they go into their isolation. They are the asocial animals. And coming to the IUCN status, it's listed as vulnerable in the IUCN status, but the Australian government has declared this as the endemic due to the threat caused by this chlamydia infection and reducing presence of this koala bears. And under CITES, that is the Convention of International Trade of the Endangered Species and Endangered Flora and the Fauna. These are listed under the Appendix 2. So Appendix 2 means there is no danger or threat to those particular animal, but these are kept under this Appendix 2 so that their trade is maintained or the regulated. And third comes our INS Androth. So here you can see the pictures of the Androth, INS Androth. So why we are discussing about this INS Androth now? Because this was inducted into the Indian Navy officially. So what is this INS Androth? So coming to its name, it was named after the Androth Island in the Lakshadweep archipelago. It is a second of the 8 anti-submarine warfare shallow water craft. So first is the INS Arnala. INS Arnala is also a kind of the anti-submarine warfare shallow watercraft, and we have the project of designing or constructing this 8 anti-submarine warfare shallow watercrafts. And these INS Androth as well as the INS Arnala are designed by the Gardner Shipbuilders and the Engineers Limited, Kolkata. What is this anti-submarine warfare shallow watercraft means? See, this INS Androth will deal with the submarine issues, the shallow water submarine issues. It will undertake the rescue and the rescue missions also. So coming to the features of this INS Androth, it stretches about 77 meters length, and it is powered by the diesel engines with water jet propulsion. It has a speed of up to 25 knots, and it includes the armaments, the kind of weapons. Those are the lightweight torpedo launchers, anti-submarine watercraft rocket launchers, and 30 naval gun, sonars, and radar, and electronic warfare suit. So these are the weapons which are equipped in this INS Androth. So what it will do, what are the functions of this INS Androth? It will detect and destroy the enemy submarines in the shallow coastal and the littoral water. See, That's why this anti-submarine watercraft is important, because most of the torpedoes and other countries submarines are come from the underwater, in the shallow water. They are not detected. But with this anti-submarine or the anti-submarine shallow watercraft, or this INS Androth and the INS Arnala, these will detect and destroy the enemy submarines then and there itself. And it will also provide the coastal defense and the surveillance, that is for ports, harbors and the sea lanes from the enemy attacks. It will also perform the search and rescue operations in terms of need. It will also regulate the mine laying operations, and it protect the island territories and the strategic assets. Coming to a fourth topic, that is the Sri Mokshagundam Vishweshwaraya. So you all know the context. Today is the Engineers Day, Sri Mokshagundam Vishweshwaraya's birthday. So let's know about him now. So he was born on 15 September 1861, Madinahalli village and the Karnataka state. At that time, it was the Mysore presidency, Mysore state. And he educated at the Central College Bangalore and graduated in civil engineering from College of Engineering Pune, then Science College affiliated to the Bombay University. So coming to his engineering achievements, he developed a flood protection system for Hyderabad. So in 1909, Hyderabad faced the deadliest Moosi floods, that is the floods from the Moosi river. At those times, Mokshagundam Vishweshwaraya developed a system for the flood protection in Hyderabad. He also developed a block system of irrigation, that is designed the automatic water floodgates at the Khadagwasla Dam near Pune. He was a chief engineer of the Krishna Rajasagar Dam, which is presently in Karnataka. He also established the Mysore Iron and the Steelworks at the Bhadravati district. He paid many contributions to the railways and road construction in the Bombay Presidency as well as the Mysore state. So these are his engineering achievements. And now coming to the administration and the statesmanship, we all know that Mokshagundam Vishweshwaraya also served as a Diwan of Mysore from 1912 to 1918 under the Maharaja Krishnaraja Wadiyar IV of the Mysore state. So at those time, as a Diwan of Mysore, he brought many reforms. Some of those are, he established Mysore University in the year 1916. He also undertook the expansion of industries in the Mysore state, that is the sandalwood oil factory, soap factory, and the Mysore iron and steel factory. He also led many banking reforms that we can see through the establishment of the State Bank of Mysore during his period only. He promoted many education reforms and also promoted the technical training also. As he is a chief engineer, he understood the importance of the technical education. So he promoted the technical training and he advocated the planned economic development and the modernization also. Coming to the recognition and the honors, he was awarded with the Bharat Ratna in 1955, which is the India's highest civilian award. And then during the British times in 1915, while he was serving as the Mysore of Diwan, he was conferred by the British this knighthood. He is also known as the father of the modern Mysore and often called as the precursor of the economic planning in India, because he also advocated for the economic planning. Coming to a final topic, that is the Guinea-Bissau. Here you can see Guinea-Bissau on the west coast of Africa. It's a country of the West Africa and its capital is Bissau. It has one archipelago, that is the Bijagos Archipelago on the Atlantic Ocean coast. Its rivers include Geba River, Korubal River, Senegal and the Gambia River. It's a member of the United Nations, African Union, Organization of the Islamic Cooperation and the Community of the West African States. So here you can see Guinea-Bissau here. It is surrounded or bordered by the Guinea here and Senegal, only two countries. And it is the Bijagos Archipelago. It also has one island, that is the Bijagos Archipelago. And these are the rivers, Korubal River, Geba River and the Kachu River. So that's all for today. Thank you.